Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me. I want to thank the administration, the department. This is a very exciting new center you guys have here, and we're really happy to be a part of it. It's nice to be able to come out into the community and talk a little bit about, who we are and what we do, and to, answer any questions. Well, I'm from Sahadis. We've been, like the gentleman said, we started here in in the late 1800s. My great ancestors came and they opened a store on Washington Street. You want to slide a little bit? I'm third generation here, and like many entrepreneurs, my grandfather Wade came here and from Zachli, Lebanon in 1919, and he did what he knew. He did what was familiar to him, which was food. Food is a big part of a Middle Easterners' background, and it's a comfort zone for us. And he was lucky enough to, that's a picture of the store on Washington Street, of my great-great-uncle's store on Washington Street in the early 1900s. My grandfather was lucky enough to be able to learn the business of food by working with his uncle. So he worked with his uncle from 1919 to 1941 before going out on his own in a small store on Washington Street nearby his uncle. At the time, there were a lot of Middle Eastern businesses there. In 1948, my grandfather, Wade, moved to 187 Atlantic Avenue, where the store currently is. We were one storefront in the middle of the block, and it was very much a Middle Eastern enclave. A lot of Middle Eastern businesses were in the area. There were several churches. It provided a community for the store. So the store was in an area where people would go to church afterwards. They would come shopping. There was a lot of Middle Eastern people living in the area, so it was a good opportunity for him to settle in. He bought his building. He bought his first building, and he essentially started his own retail and wholesale, pretty much working many weeks, 7 days when he needed to, doing everything out of one small building. From these pictures, these are pictures from the 50s. One is from 58, I think the other one is from 60. We are the small store on the right, although that middle building, that big building you see in the center that says Rashid Stills, is part of today's store. But we started in one small store, which is 187, which is a little store right on the end. And it's a separate building, and these are some of our original brands. We used to pack everything in-house, literally in-house, by hands. Tins would come stamped, and we would pack. Like in any businesses, branding is really important. So my grandfather was very vigilant about making sure that he had things that were, that were private label in way before the time of that was typical. So we canned a lot of our own stuff. Actually, a lot of these tins, and the machinery to do it is still in my building, because it's family, and we have 3 floors, and when new equipment comes, old equipment generally goes up, especially when it's historical, and so we still have a lot of the original tins. It's really interesting. Unfortunately, Wade passed away fairly young. My dad, Charlie, took over the helm of Sahadis, joined several years later by his wife, my mom, Audrey, and his brother, Bob. And Charlie was more progressive, so he was able to move the business into a period of growth and change, which was really exciting for us. In 1968, we had begun to rent the other half, the picture's gone, of course, the other half of the larger building, and we used that as our gift store and our office. And then in 1977, the decision was made to purchase the building and move the wholesale out of the building so we would have a little more space. So we bought a building on Bergen Street, and the wholesale moved over there. It made more sense. It was more practical to break up the business that way. Bob, my uncle, went over and took care of the wholesale during the day, and of course everybody worked the store at night because retail is retail hours. And then in 1986, we did our first major expansion because they were 2 separate buildings. There's a wood picture, but there's the actual store, the blue storefront. You can see it's 2 separate buildings, so we had to shore up the buildings and cut holes in between. I was just starting to work in 1986, so I had been there as a younger, but I had just started to become more involved, and we did this construction remaining completely open. We closed for 2 days, and we moved everything in 2 days and 2 nights. Because when you're in this type of business, we choose it to be a 6-day business, so it is a 6-day business, and we really wanted to get it all done and not be too disruptive. So we closed for 2 days, we had our Sunday, and we made it work. We connected that year. That's when I came into the business. I was 17. I was halfway through my degree at NYU, and my father offered me an opportunity to work with my mom and develop the kitchen department, the prepared foods. So I took a year and a half off. I went to culinary school. I learned what I needed to learn to do what we had always done at home on a larger scale, and to do it cost effectively and legally with all the permits and everything you need for a professional kitchen. It was a wonderful opportunity. I spent a year and a half in the school learning, and then we opened up the kitchen, as well as the other departments of the store all kind of came along with that. And then, of course, my brother, who had just finished an accounting degree at St. John's, joined us. So we had more people. We were able to physically take over the space better. And then in 1990, we purchased Regina Nut Products, which is a nut and seed roasting facility. My husband, who was at the time working on Wall Street, joined us as a partner to run this arm of the business with my brother. So in 1999, we bought a large parcel of land, which became available in Sunset Park, which was completely uninhabitable. I'll show you pictures. We rehabbed it, so now it's 76,000 square feet. 30,000 is our distribution center, 40,000 is a rental, and the remaining is our manufacturing. We built basically we built a new facility, and it has a roasting facility where we could roast and grow. I mean, there are certain ways you can grow. You can grow vertically or you can grow horizontally. This was our decision to go. We had already moved vertically to the 2 stores. The 3rd store was a lot more work. We weren't sure we wanted to do it, so we decided to go the other way and buy back. So we bought that was the building when we first bought it. It was completely uninhabitable. It was filled with squatters. I mean, it was really the city. We worked with the city and with the local development corp to rehab it. It was one of the only big available plots of space that was in our corridor. We traveled to the store every day. We needed to make it work. It was a very good location. It was a very good opportunity, and you can see on the next slide, it has really become quite a beautiful building. The new construction is where we do our manufacturing, because it needs to be, manufacturing needs to be totally sealed off. That's our new roasting machine. I don't know how much we can roast in an average day, but it's a lot. I mean, it's a dry roaster. We roast anything that can be roasted dry. So it's a big facility. We do our distribution out of the other side of the building, where you can see the containers coming in, as well as cars loading up. So, I mean, it made sense. It was a really good fit for us. We knew that this piece of real estate would be a good investment for us, and it made sense to grow that way as opposed to developing our own. I mean, we had been doing business with Regina Nut Products a long time. It was a very well-established brand. They actually started across the street from us on Atlantic Avenue. And then they moved because light manufacturing moved off of Atlantic because it's a retail corridor. And when we bought them, they were in Sunset Park. So we had a warehouse, they had a warehouse. We brought them into our warehouse, and that was our facility. In 2012, my father came to me and said, at the time, I was working at home a lot of the time. I had kids, and I wasn't full-time at the office. I was doing a lot of off-site work, and said, what do you think about coming back in full-time? I want to do this last final expansion. So we talked about it, and we took over the 3rd store, which you saw in the first picture. We broke through, which was another big job. We have a big hallway in between, but we managed to make the logistics work. We did some excavation work, so we have some more basement. And it's still a work in progress. Like anything, it's a work in progress. We look forward to continuing to grow and innovate well into the future. I mean, our long-term plans include developing more of a web presence, retail mail orders, and growing our brand identity. I mean, it's really important to grow and protect your brands. So from my grandfather alone in one small store on Washington Street to our block in Sunset Park, our larger store, we have a solid team of both family members and colleagues. So we continue to grow and innovate. This is just a general idea of, where we're going. I mean, this is our new trucks all have our name on them. We do our own trucking now to the tri-state area, which we did not do in the past. This is our branding tree. All of these brands are in use somewhere. They're all trademarked, depending on whether we're targeting, food service, or whether we're targeting the retail market, or whether we're targeting, the resale market. We decide on where a new product goes, what brand it falls under, what label it gets, and then along with that comes all of the paperwork and the slicks and everything that has to go with developing a product. I mean, developing a product today is vastly different than developing it years ago, where you could just sit in your basement and fill the can and seal the can and put it out. Today there's a lot more regulations, there's a lot more thought goes into it, a lot more marketing. So basically, we just try to make sure that we are always hitting the target market we want to with the correct brand so that we, we know where we are. We've learned a lot from, I know my dad and my mom have learned a lot. I've learned a lot from both our suppliers, our customers, from everybody. You have to be really open to learning when you do your own thing. When you are an entrepreneur, every day is going to throw a curveball at you, and you really have to be open to learning. So a few things that have just come up over and over the years. Know your business. Choose something that you're knowledgeable and excited about because you're going to be doing it for a lot of hours, a lot of the day. You really have to be, it has to be something that you're passionate about. Going into business just to make money or just to do something, it's not, a lot of times it's not going to be enough. You need to be really passionate to make those long hours worth it. Don't be afraid of change, embrace it. One of the advantages of the smaller retailer is the ability to act quickly, and that makes us unique. I can bring a product to market a lot faster than a major developer. Somebody that's got to really think about it and run it through 400 chains of command. There's no chain of command. We see a product, we like it. Somebody says to me, I like this product. Where do you want to fall under? We bring it to my dad. Do you like this product? Do you think we can do something with it? My mom tastes it. My uncle, okay, it's great. We're going to brand it. Where are we going to put it? We can do all of that. We're in pretty much all in 2 offices. We can do all of that in a week. Craft or a company like that is going to take a lot longer. What does a small business have on their side? The ability to work quickly. You really have to be able to embrace change and just go with it because you learn, you make it work along the way, and there's always going to be a few products that don't work, but that's going to be the same case if there's a huge chain of command and it takes a long time. Make sure you're sufficiently financed for the business model you choose. Today's society, you guys have a lot of choices. If you don't have enough money for a brick and mortar, don't do one. Do a website to start with. Do a street fair, a craft fair. It depends on what your product is. But I can't tell you how many stores that we have done business with over the years that have gone out of business before they opened. I'm going to do a store, and by the time they get the permits and they get the stuff and they buy the merchandise and the stuff gets there, they're out of money. Choose a business model that you can sustain because you can always grow, but it makes sense to do it wisely. Something that we've learned through the course of this huge project, make sure you know a lot about your municipal area. What kind of permits, what kind of rules. When you rent a place, your fixed costs start immediately. They don't wait because you don't have a permit. Con Ed doesn't care if you don't have a permit, they still want the electric bill paid. So you are going to have a lot of expenses. You have to make sure that you know what you're looking at. Always know what's ahead of you. I thought this construction job was going to take, they told me, no longer than 2 years. It took 2 years to get the permit. It took 2 years of going back and forth and paying architectural fees and paying for court time and dragging my father in front of 7 boards to get the permit that we needed to just do the job. We were well financed to do it, but that's a really important part of doing anything on your own, making sure you can finance it. Research your market and know who you're targeting. Being all over the place sounds like a really good business plan, but it's a better business plan to know the people that you want to target things to because there's a million customers out there. Which ones do you want, and why are they looking at you instead of somebody else? Protect your brand. It takes a lot of hard work to develop a brand. Trademark it, buy the web address, protect it, because if you go through a lot of trouble to develop a brand, and then 10 years down the road when you're making good money off that brand, somebody comes to you and they already own that brand, they're going to wait until you're making good money and you have to pay top dollar to buy that trademark. Always protect yourself. Social media, as I'm learning, it can be a really good way to do marketing. I'm not terribly strong in it, but I'm learning and I'm not afraid to bring in consultants and get help. I have a 19-year-old son. I ask him all the time, how do I tweet this? How do I Instagram this? What should I be doing here? How am I targeting it? It's a way to learn, and it's a great way to get marketing and to get feedback at almost no cost. It's fabulous. Use technology, but don't let it take over your life. My phone and my iPad are forever connected to me, but every once in a while I go on a vacation and I am grateful there's no service. Don't be afraid to walk away when you have to, because otherwise it could be enough. And never be afraid to admit you don't know about something. Learn from every opportunity. Anybody, any customer, any employee, any supplier can give me advice. I don't always take it, but if you're afraid to learn or you think you know everything, you're never going to learn anything. You have to listen to everybody around you and filter what needs to be filtered. Filter what's important. This is key. Surround yourself with a good team. Your business is only as good as your staff. They're the face and voice of your business. My staff is a tangible asset for me. Every single one of my staff is well respected, is good at what they do. I ask their opinions. I mean, you're always going to have trouble keeping staff. That's part of any business in life. But my core is what makes us part of who we are, because we're not standing there every minute. And if the one person you see when you walk in the door isn't smiling at you, it's like the bad cup of coffee at the end of a restaurant meal. You're going to remember that. You're only as good as your brand. You're only as good as what you show people. So always make sure that we provide benefits for our staff. We go above what is required by law, because I don't want to retrain. I don't want to find new staff. My staff is good. I'd rather keep them than constantly be starting new. So realize when you get somebody, appreciate them and really cultivate them, because it's important. This is important also. Be part of your community. Donate time, goods, money, whatever you can. When St. Francis faculty and administration asked me to come today, I was delighted. It's a great opportunity to give back to the neighborhood, to just get out there and talk to people, to break out of my mold. It's very easy in a small business never to look up from your desk. It's very easy to just get stuck in what you're doing. But it's really important to participate in the community. It's a wider world than what's happening on your desk. Always participate if you can. Wow, these are a little bit luxury, but it is kind of what it is. Commit to being an entrepreneur only when you can give it 100%. I wake up in the morning and I think about food. Almost every vacation I've ever taken, the first place I go is to the local market. I could tell you the best food market in every major city worldwide that I have been to, because I always target it. A business is like a family. It never goes away. It's there all the time. So, when you make that commitment, make sure you're at a point in your life that you can do it. An entrepreneur is great for a young person, because a lot of times they have a lot less commitments, and they can really give it 100% if necessary. Pay attention to your competitors, who they are and where they're going. Look around. See what everybody else is doing. If you have to shift gears, shift gears. A business doesn't have to go out because the market's changing. That's why you're entrepreneurs. You can figure it out. You can make the adjustment. You can move on the fly if you have to. When the Middle Easterners started moving out of this area, it would have been very easy for us to just say, okay, well, we're happy with this amount of business. But we went, okay, who's moving into the area? And the people that live in this area are some of the most food-savvy people on earth. So we scaled down being exclusively Middle Eastern, and we ramped up being international. We brought in other foods. A lot of people in this area are really well-traveled. We bring in a big local product mix. That's something everybody wants today. You have to, go with the flow, so to speak. Manage growth. Sales are great, but only if you can collect. It's really great to say I have $10 million in sales, but if you are constantly floating alone because you can't collect on any of those $10 million in sales, it doesn't work. Grow at a pace that you can manage. Always look, like the next one, always think strategically. Always look long term. Look at where you want to go and make sure that everything you're doing is aiming towards that goal. It's a lot of work if you're not shooting at something. And have an exit strategy. Do you want to do this forever? And if you don't, are you positioning yourself to sell? Are you positioning yourself to pass down? In our case, it was clear. We had family that was interested. My father positioned the business so that we could come in and there would be enough space for all of us to work together and everybody to have their strengths and their weaknesses. I mean, everybody's got their strengths. My brother's much more technologically savvy than I do. If the cash register goes down or the computer's not working, I call him screaming. When somebody calls and says they need somebody to come and speak at something, he calls me and goes, I'm not doing that. You got to know what you're doing, but you also got to position your business right so that you know that you can fill all the needs. And the last few things that are really important, invest in your real estate if you can. It's not always easy in the beginning, but a lot of the appreciation especially in the New York City area, has been in the real estate. So yes, the reason I can keep my prices low is because I own that building, and I can make that work. If I had to walk in today and pay 3 times the amount of rent, somebody has to pay for that. So eventually it's going to be the ultimate consumer. If you can invest in your real estate, you should. You should try to locate your business close to where you live because you are uniquely qualified to know the customer base. I know the people in this neighborhood like the back of my hand. I can tell you half the people walking in what they're going to buy. After all these years of being a part of this neighborhood, don't locate yourself so far from your ultimate customer, or you can lose sight of the ultimate customer. Don't forget who you are. At heart, at Sahadis, we're grocers, and we love food, and we love our customers. And I've heard my dad say 1,000,000 times, I sell olives. If you ask my father what he does for a living, he sells olives or he sells nuts. That's one very small part of what he does. But at the heart of it, he sells olives. And you know what? He loves it, he's great at it, and it makes it who he is. the last thing is enjoy what you do, because you're going to be doing it every day. And no matter how bad the day before was, I never wake up and go, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I mean, I have days when I'd like to go home early, but I don't have days when I don't want to come in the next day, when I don't still think, when somebody doesn't walk up to me with a new product and I'm not still excited to see it. Or when, Dad and my uncle are working on a new display, or when my mom's got some fabulous new cheese coming in. There's never a day when I go, oh God, I just don't want to deal with it. I still love it. If you don't love it, entrepreneur is not the way to go. You have to love what you do. That's why I said in the very beginning, pick something you're passionate about. Everybody in my family is passionate about about food. My sister, not so much. She's a teacher. And you know what? She loves it. She teaches deaf students. She's terrific at it. But she knew coming in that this wasn't her path. And she chose something that she loves, and she's gone so far with it. You need to choose something that you love, whether you do something on your own or you work for somebody else. Don't be afraid to really look inside and see where it is that you want to be so that you can decide. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I hope that you guys all got something out of this.
I have a question for you. What would you recommend to an entrepreneur who's like, he has an idea on what he wants to do, but can't figure out like how to get started?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of the exploration of an idea in the beginning is getting some experience. I mean, if it was somebody in food, I would tell them, see if you can get a job somewhere. If it was somebody in electronics, maybe they need to work in the field. I think a lot of learning is hands-on. So it's nice to, if it's somebody that's just got a really fabulous idea, then maybe the idea is to try to form a partnership with somebody who is already established, or somebody who's got more knowledge about establishing. It depends on the field, but I definitely think that, and I think that there's absolutely, like I said, you have to learn. Don't be afraid to email people. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, because a lot of learning is reaching out, is somebody coming and asking a question. Going to a firm maybe that you have a relationship with in the similar field and asking some questions. Most people are happy to share information. I'm happy to share information. Nobody's going to compete exactly the same thing next door. If you share information, you learn, and a lot of places are happy to do that.
How has marketing evolved over the years?
Wow, a lot. A lot. I mean, I did not take marketing other than 1 or 2 classes in college because my strength is numbers, to be honest with you, and finance. But I have learned so much on the job. We participate in a lot of trade shows. Well, not a lot, but a big one every year, and sometimes 1 or 2 smaller events. I think that it's gone from where you could just bring a product to market. You could make a product, you could put it in a tin, like those original tins. You could put it on your shelf and tell people about it, and they'd buy it. The problem is that today, to produce a tin and to produce, color photos and all of this, it's expensive. You have to sell more than the 5 jars you're going to sell. So we find that a lot of our marketing, while we do a lot of word of mouth, a lot of our marketing is done on social media, and a lot of marketing is done at trade shows where we actually produce color slicks, and we've got salespeople out there trying to push the item. It's what I can sell in the store and what I can sell in the warehouse are not necessarily 2 different things, but I can sell so much more volume if I can get 2 or 3 of the distributors to pick it up. So I think a lot more is done like that. Like years ago, our truck didn't even say Sahadi on it. It was a white van. It delivered. Now it's got graphics on it. Like a lot of it is visual. People are very visual today, and young people especially are not only visual, but they're to the minute. It enters and leaves very, very quickly, so you have to grab somebody's eye immediately. So this, like I was just saying before, this is the first year we ever brought in a guy that basically does IT and photos and stuff like that to help us come up with faster marketing tools as opposed to just the standard, well, we'll put a flyer in each person's bag. I mean, now we do a lot of email blasts, that helps. But it's mostly changed with technology. Technology's changed so vastly. I mean, when I started in this business, we had telex. And when we wanted to send a note overseas, we sent a telex. And it took a long time to get a response. Now, they can call you with a product and it can be on your shelf in, I mean, assuming that the freight is coming by boat, 6 weeks. Because they produce the label there and the stuff comes here. It's a vastly different world. So I would definitely say technology's been, it's changed the whole marketing world, especially for food people, because I think that people eat with their eyes. So in the food world especially, I mean, It makes, I mean, Instagram has changed, and that's only been recent, has changed. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think it's just an amazing tool that is going to even further change the marketing techniques of businesses like us.